I'm talking and I realize that I didn't hit the recording. I don't have that set on automatic, so I'll just say welcome one more time. Jason Stein from the Monday Morning Minute. This is the first of the new year. The fourth Monday of every month is going to be a money talk. It's going to be a TED Talk-like style, and it's going to be brief, simple, and then if there are people on the line, we'll go ahead and we'll open it up. And so I see there's several people on the line today. I want to welcome you wherever you are. I see different zip codes, so I'm guessing you're in different parts of the country or the world. And so today I just want to start by saying thank you for being here, because I believe if we talked more about money, especially in business, there would be less greed, there'd be more collaboration, and there'd be a lot more win-wins. The challenge with money is we all have money stories. And if you saw the last Monday Morning Minute, it really was asking you about the lineage. What is your lineage with money? What did your parents and your grandparents teach you? And today, we're going to talk about why it can be really hard to ask and how that can really impact you in your business. So I'm going to share my screen so we can get to my PowerPoint, and we'll go from there. So for me, daring to ask with money. When we think about it, money started not that long ago. When you look at the history of money, it really started with changing of stones. There were certain stones considered valuable. And from there, it eventually went to beads, and from beads to gold coins, and gold coins eventually to cash, and then cash to this new electronic thing. It started with Visa, MasterCard, and now there's PayPal, there's Stripe. And if you're not familiar, I believe what's headed next is Bitcoin. And we're not going to talk about that today, but you can always look it up online, what Bitcoin is, how it got started, and why it may change the future. The truth is, though, we used to pay with dollars everywhere we went. Everybody knew how to run a till if you had a small business, and there was a lot of engagement around money. And eventually what happened is we removed ourselves from it deeper and deeper, and so then this asking thing became harder and harder. Now, to really think about asking and daring to ask, we have to look a little bit at the history of asking for ourselves in our own life. And for most people, there are a lot of benefits of why you want to ask in business. We can cover just a few. Like asking for more help with marketing efforts is really important, because sometimes writing your own copy or doing your own social media can be really challenging. We have a promo that we want to do, but we don't want to sound salesy or greedy, and we end up sometimes hitting paralysis. You know, asking for better niche partners and strategic alliances. Oftentimes, it's really easy for you to share other people's business, and other people make it easy to share you. But when we're talking about ourselves, sometimes that's not the most comfortable thing, especially when we're asking people to do things. Asking for more money, even when people owe it to you. I did have one client that was an attorney. They let their accounts receivable go up to $70,000, and they were afraid to ask for people to pay the bills that were owed. They also didn't want to put those people into collections, and ultimately it was hurting them, hurting their business. And finally, asking for help so you don't have to do it all alone. I work with a lot of business owners, and what I find, whether you have 17 employees, a few employees, or it's just you, asking for help is not always an organic thing. And so we tend to think, well, on the internet, we can find anything, so we can figure out how we can DIY, do it yourself. The challenge with that is there's a time allocation, and although you could learn how to do all parts of your business, if you're never asking for help, you're going to burn out. You're going to be 24/7. You're going to have this thing close to you at all times, looking at text message, answering emails, when you could be hanging out with family or creating more of your own life. So there's so many benefits to asking, and we want to think about the history of our life. How did it start? And we look, this is my son, Cooper. Cooper's now 4.5 months, and he still has no problem asking. He's hungry, he cries. He wants a diaper change, sometimes he cries. He's tired, he cries. And ultimately, he doesn't cry that much. He's actually a really good baby. But when he needs something, he always lets us know. And somewhere, something happened that we, in the beginning, always let people know that we needed something. And now when we need something, it's okay. No, I got this one. It's on me. I'm good. And we end up burning out and getting overwhelmed. Now, what I found from early childhood development, this continues. Now, this is my middle son, Jack. Jack's now 9 years old, and he's really good at asking all the time. Now it's screen time, but it used to be smoothies. Like, can I have a smoothie? Can I have a smoothie? Can I have a smoothie? Now, when a child asks for something and an adult says no, and the child's of a young age, what does the child usually do? They ask again. Now, when you ask for business and someone says no, oftentimes it's easy to be like, well, I don't want to ask for business anymore. It's too painful. I got to know. But that resilience of a small child wanting that dessert, wanting that screen time is something you still have inside of you. And if you get several no's for your business, you're going to get more yeses. It's about learning how to ask. Now, there's a really interesting thing. And our parents taught us a lot about asking. And there was a certain age where it started to not be okay. So one of those is, don't ask if you can do it yourself. Have you guys heard that before? Like, you can ask, but then there's this system where you're going to owe. So if you're in that story of that, how exciting is it to ask for someone for help if it means you're already busy, you need the help, but it means that you're going to have to owe someone else? What if they say no? Like, I may not be able to recover from that. Like, if you've been in business long enough, you know there's people that need your service, they like you, and for whatever reason, it's not the right time, and they say no. And sometimes it takes the wind out of our sails. So you're selfish or greedy for asking. That's a big one. Like, oh, man. If you're selfish every time you ask, how exciting would it be to ask for more business or ask for more help in your business? So the pendulum starts to swing for us of starting off as a child, asking a lot, and then eventually two things will happen. We will either swing all the way to the other side, and this is me at 21 years old with my Billy Idol haircut and being a punk. And I swung all the way to asking for what I want, whenever I want, whoever I want. And there's a challenge with that, and it's not balanced. And I burned out friendships. I burned out strategic alliances. And I realized that just because you can ask doesn't mean that you have to. And maybe you find yourself on that pendulum. More often than not, people go the other way. And this is my wife several years ago. My wife is a physician. She's a yogi. She's a personal trainer. She's an excellent marksman. She's an excellent chef. There is nothing that I found that she can do except basketball because she's 5 feet. And she, a while ago, never asked anybody for anything because she could always learn how to do it. Now, the challenge with just because you can do it in your business doesn't mean you should be doing it in your business. And through the years, my wife has learned it's really challenging to ask sometimes, but the more you ask, the more collaboration can occur in your business. So we look here, and I just want to do a quick, if you're watching this now live or if you're doing it later, if I say R-O-A-S-T, what does that spell? It spells roast. We say it 5 times. So we say it 5 times out loud. Roast, roast. So if you're at home, you're watching this, people are around, you probably don't want to do it. Say it really quietly. Roast, 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 roast. What do you put in a toaster? You put bread in a toaster. But if you said toast, there's a reason why. And that is, this is your brain. And those little parts on the bottom, the red part, it's an almond-shaped part of your brain called the amygdala. And the amygdala is on autopilot, and it does things because it knows how to do them. If you get in your car and you go somewhere you often go the same pathway, and your brain works the same way. If there's smoke that happens in your office, you're going to look for the exit. You're going to smell the smoke, and the smoke may be someone smoking outside. So we have to start to decipher. There's a difference between autopilot and being present. And being present in the present moment is really a different part of the brain. It's the frontal lobe, right? Right here, if you can access neural pathways there, everything changes. Now, why is this so important? Because we just talked about a lot of your challenge in asking comes from your history of being able to ask a long time ago, and then something happened and you were taught it's not okay to ask, or you over asked and you learned it's not okay to ask. And so now you're not asking and it's costing you. So when we look at this, we want to get to the frontal lobe for a couple of reasons. One of those is by practicing asking, you can remember it's not about a yes or no, but it's a journey. It's really about in the ask. If you just start practicing someone if they could make your coffee at home, or ask a friend if they could make dinner, and then you can start working into business, asking yourself to raise your prices and asking your clients to pay a little bit more if you haven't raised them for a long time. Now, practicing mindfulness, it may be meditation, yoga, qigong, walks, anything can be mindfulness if you're not thinking about the past or worrying about the future. What it means is you're accessing your breath, you're starting to slow things down, and you're not in a reactive mode. Things get thrown. Now, here's the thing about reactive modes. They happen more and more. Movie screens, shorter clips per second, so they're getting faster. This thing, like ultimately always coming in at you, new messages, new messages, new messages. And the last thing is really important, and that is we all have human needs. I don't like to be needy, but we all have them. You know, we need air, we need food, but we also need love. Now, the number one human need when I took a look at it is to be a contribution to other people. And here's the paradox. If you are constantly doing things for yourself, you are not allowing other people to be a contribution to you. And often people want to help you, they just don't know how. So when you're starting to look at asking, you want to get really specific in your practicing. You can start to name the who, what, where, when. Like if you're wanting your clients to pay a little bit more, you can create a whole system. You can write a letter to them saying that prices will go up and by when. Certain services, you can discount those prices until they go out, so you can offer a discounted rate that people can buy in bulk. You can tell your clients in person, and you can remind them. And I've been coaching a while, and I've had several of my clients say they were petrified to ask their clients to pay more, but they finally did it because they knew they needed to. And they, more than once this has happened, their clients had thanked them for finally raising the prices because they wanted to pay more and didn't know how. So we're putting this all together today, the 1, 2, 3 of it. Remember that there was a time where you could ask freely. It may have been a long time ago, it was for me, but there was a time where you could ask freely in a way that people responded. Now, remember being in fight, flight, or freeze. So that's the amygdala piece on the automatic pilot. It's like you're asking and you're not asking because you're afraid you're going to upset someone, so you're withdrawn, or you're asking too much and you're aggressive, or you're just frozen and you can't make the ask at all. You got to get to a different part of the brain, and that's going to come through cultivating your mindfulness. And the last thing is, our number one need is to be a contribution to other people. And you have to ask yourself the reframe of that. Are you allowing people to be a contribution to you? So we take a look, and I'm going to ask you, I'm going to open it up for Q&A, but before I do, I have a couple of announcements. One is, if you know a healer anywhere around the globe, I'm starting a group, a mastermind facilitated. I've run several of these groups. I have several in action, but I want to do one just for female healers because I find they really struggle with asking, to put them together. How do you refer to that? Well, if you pull down to number 3, chocolate strategy sessions. If you like my work, you know a small business owner, you don't quite know how to refer to me, link them to that page, and I'll spend 30 minutes of time with them to do an assessment. Am I the right fit? What of my services is the right fit for them, if any? Or do I need to refer them to something else? Because sometimes I do that. So let me come out of here, back on the screen sharing. And if you know the chat box is here, right? We're going to go ahead and open it up. If you have a question, and then I can take you off mute. And sometimes people don't want to ask questions because you are in that mode, right, of what we just talked about, of freeze or flight. And I'm going to challenge everyone to take a moment to either share a comment or to ask a question. And I will share my screen one more time. If you scroll over that area, and it just switched my screen of your computer. If you're on a phone, I'm not sure you can chat because I can see several people have called in as well. So are there any questions or comments? Okay. So it's 8:17. I knew this was going to be TED Talk style. I'm going to call on a few people because I would like this to be not just me, but a dialogue as well, because we're all small business owners. We can all relate to ourselves. And so Roland from Canada, I've opened up your line. So how are you doing today?
Good morning, Jason. I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. What thoughts are coming up as you're watching the presentation and you're kind of leaning in?
Well, what comes up for me is just how right you are in this interconnectedness. There's somehow an echo, but I don't know what's.
Sometimes if you turn your volume down just a little bit, the echo will go away.
All right, let me see. Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you great without it.
Great. Oh, okay. So yes, I think it's a strategy that I often recommend, but to doing it myself, it's not quite that easy. Yeah, like if you have a trouble with with your neighbor, then go and ask him for help for something. Yeah, because this is really how often we open up connections. And I think, yeah, business is really about our business, especially in the healing world, is really about a connection and being related. Yeah. So, and also to ask for money, of course, is again a different thing. I can ask for, do you have an egg or butter or milk or something? Yeah,
right.
That's a different ball game.
It's so a different ball game to ask for money because it means something because of our money story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I appreciate what you're saying about it's so much easier to give this advice or support other people in doing it because you see, you're a homeopath in Canada, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you see a lot of patients, and I'm guessing that sometimes some of the homework is to help them heal by asking for support.
That is one part, definitely. Yeah.
And so for us to take that on ourselves, I think we have to understand that we are biologically designed not to do it. And we can see that because right now I can see your face. Like you and I both have our webcams on. And I can see you. I can see your needs. I can see your facial expressions. But I'm not really looking at myself, right? So it's really easy to think about what does everybody else need? What does everybody else's business need? Without thinking, what do I need? How's that land for you?
Well, it's absolutely true. And there's sometimes, you know, you need something and you might pinpoint it on something, but it might not be really the real story. Yeah. Um, sometimes you think, oh, I need something that's easier for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the real need is something more difficult to ask for. Yeah. And then
and that's why you practice.
Shift things around. And because I think the need first comes up as just a gut feeling. Yeah. And it does not at the first place tell you what it is really. Yeah. So it takes a little bit of self-attunement and feeling in and taking a little time, to find out, oh, what is it really? Yeah, deep down.
Here's the beautiful thing, and I'm going to interrupt just for a second. That is, it's all about the practice, because we've geared ourselves out of practice asking in business, or it's so painful when we do it that we have to start practicing why it's such a good thing. And it's a new neural pathway. And so we can get really good at talking about money. We can get really good at asking for more business. We can get really good to help our community know what we do so they can share us, so it's not always on us. Yeah. And so for Roland and everyone else on the call and everyone watching later, I want to encourage you to start making small asks per day, like really tracking with yourself. Are you asking for the support that you really need? Yeah. Roland, before I'm going to take one more just dialogue, but before I do that, is there anything else you want to share?
Well, one thing that really comes to my mind, and you know, I'm a homeopath, so homeopathy is my specialty. I'm way better in that than in money, and business. So, but the principles sometimes are the same. Yeah,
that's right.
Like as homeopaths, you also have to ask for help. And it's very, very few of us that are able to treat themselves. And if we do, it's usually more on a superficial level. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I I have quite a lot of colleagues that are coming to see me, and I always encourage them, you know, if we could do everything on our own that we would like to be our own, if we would be as independent as we want to, we would be very alone.
Oh, it's so true. And that's why I'm starting, my year is really build, my business plan this year is built around building more groups, because I find that my community often is one of the smartest people in the room. They're very talented, so they don't like to ask. And so they're doing so much alone. And I'm building these groups because everyone should have a team of individuals supporting them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you, Roland. I'm going to
thank you.
One more person, or at least call on one and see if they're willing to play with me. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Karen, I see that you're still here on the line, and I'm wondering, would you be willing to turn your webcam on just for a minute? Karen, if you can hear me, Karen Kane. And you can also chat over here so you can communicate with me. Okay, great. So I don't know if it's the technology, Karen, or not, but I'm just going to start wrapping things up and just say, this is going to be the 4th Monday. We're going to do a mini presentation, and then we're going to do a dialogue. This is the first one, and I sent out one reminder, so I may send out a couple of reminders because people get busy on Monday morning. But we'll also post this up into the Monday Morning Minute so people can do it. It looks like, Karen, you've lowered your hand, and so I have you on unmute. Before we close out, Karen, is there anything you wanted to say? And that could be a technology issue because we can't hear you, but I saw that you raised your hand. So we'll figure that out as well before the next one. And again, Jason Stein, easiest way to refer to me. I'm going to put a link for Chocolate Strategy Sessions. My goal is to do 5 per month. And I really am ready for more people to be in community, in business, because together is better. So I'm wishing everyone a happy Monday. Bye for now.